Good evening, everybody. This is Casper from the Tropical Weather Threat Society bringing you our nightly update, and we have a bunch of things to talk about here tonight. So, we have Gabrielle. Gabrielle has hurricane watches issued for the Azores now. We also have Invest's 93L, which is located here, and we have Invest 94L located here. We've got some serious discussions to have regarding Invest 94L and the amount of uncertainties that are within the forecast. No matter, I don't care who you follow, nobody's going to be able to determine exactly where this is going to go. And it is going to require everybody from basically along the East Coast, from Florida all throughout the Bahamas, all the way up the East Coast, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina. Everybody's going to need to keep a watch on this just until we can make sure that we don't have anything or we end up getting something. So let's take a quick look at the overall main page, National Hurricane Center. We have Gabrielle still moving out to the east-northeast with our hurricane watches issued for the Azores. We'll go over that in just a moment. We also have Invest 93L currently with a 60% chance of development over the next 48 hours and a 90% chance of development over the next 7 days. We also have Invest 94L, as you could see, highlighted by this X here. We'll show it on EarthNull here shortly. And that is forecast to currently has a 20% chance of development over the next 48 hours, which is kind of unlikely, but a 60% chance of development over the next 7 days, as it is in and around the region of the Bahamas. This one needs to be taken with a little bit of potential concern. It is recommended to just monitor the forecast right now, but be prepared to make preparations if you live somewhere along the East Coast sometime next week if this turns out to become a threat. It is definitely too early, but there are some potential signals and some other weather features out there that could potentially steer this back towards the United States. And that is a concern. I do have an old view of this. Let's get a better view of Gabrielle if I can work the website properly. And it has finally become cloud filled. It is starting to lose a little bit of its intensity. It has come down slightly this afternoon, but it is still a very, very formidable storm. As you could see, still a well-defined center of circulation, although we are starting to get some erosion here on the western and southwestern sides of the system. Currently, Gabrielle is located at 34.6 north, 56.2 west, about 1,635 miles west of the Azores. Current intensity is 130 miles an hour, and it is moving east-northeast at 21 miles an hour with a minimum central pressure of 952 millibars. A hurricane watch is in effect for all of the Azores. Hazards affecting land, the most important part of the public advisory. We do have a storm surge, a storm surge message here regarding areas of onshore winds. That would be also accompanied with large and destructive waves, and therefore a surge risk is present. Our rainfall, we are looking at 3 to 5 inches or 75 to 125 millimeters. They use the metric system in the Azores of rainfall, and that's over the western Azores. The eastern Azores, 1 to 2 inches or 25 to 50 millimeters of rain. And also, we are still getting some swells generated here on the East Coast and Atlantic Canada and Bermuda. So please mind your local officials if heading out towards the beach. If we take a look at, let's slide over here. If we take a look at our interactive experimental cone, you can see here all of the Azores are under a hurricane watch, which is not a very common occurrence. And then, as a post-tropical system, then potentially impacting parts of Portugal or Spain this upcoming weekend. So, crazy, crazy system here, guys. Really is. As you could see with the spaghetti plots, everything has it weakening. We don't have any increase in intensity here on the right-hand column with our maximum wind speed numbers. But it is forecast it may make a turn before it gets to Portugal and Spain over there. But the Azores are definitely under the gun here. Our earliest reasonable arrival time of winds are going to be sometime during the daylight hours of Thursday, with our most likely arrival time of winds approaching around sunset on Thursday, if not through the overnight hours of Thursday going into Friday morning. So it looks like that this is going to be a nighttime event. Our tropical storm force wind speed probabilities. As you can see, there are we're well into the 70 to 80% range now for a majority of the islands. Getting into this 50 knot wind speed range. This is 58 miles an hour. This would be kind of representative of some extensive power outages, damage to some infrastructure, trees down, stuff like that. And right now, for the majority of the Azores here, I guess you would call that the central Azores, we are looking at around 30 to 40%. So a rising opportunity here for some structural issues going forward. We have the discussion here. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I am going to go from here down. Compared to this morning, the guidance has made another southward shift, and the NHC track forecast was moved a little south of the prior advisory, but not as far south as the HCCA and TVCN consensus aids. Further southward adjustments may be necessary in subsequent forecast cycles. Vertical wind shear continues to slowly increase over the hurricane, now diagnosed at 20 knots by the Euro-based ships. This shear will increase further while Gabrielle moves over cooler ocean waters, and the latest guidance shows a slightly faster rate of weakening than earlier. The NHC intensity forecast follows suit, showing steady weakening through the next 2 to 3 days, though Gabrielle should still be a hurricane when it moves across the Azores. Thereafter, a trough interaction will hasten extratropical transition of the hurricane, which should be complete in about 3 days. The resulting baroclinic interaction may temporarily slow the weakening rate between 48 and 72 hours, but more steady weakening should resume after Gabrielle becomes post-tropical. The NHC intensity guidance is in good agreement with the guidance suite, a little lower than the prior cycle. As we can see, we're looking at that 48 to 60 hour time frame, definitely still category 1, slow rate of weakening compared to what we have had in the previous updates. So we're definitely, for our folks out there with the Azores, it is a serious concern. So folks under the hurricane watch, please You guys are more than welcome to use the database that we have tied to the page. If you come here to North America, you've got the Azores right here. Now, the thing about the Azores is that it is run by the Meteorological Service of Portugal. So there is some translational issues. You've got to get it back from Portuguese, and then you would be able to get the Azores notifications, updates, and stuff like that as well. So all information is going to be through Portugal, which is kind of ironic that, well, not really ironic, it's kind of unfortunate that Portugal is going to be covering the Azores, and then it may have to cover the same storm system approaching its own coastline. Now, what we have here are our intensity ensembles, or our intensity models, not ensembles. As you could see here from Cyclonic WX, we have a steady pace of weakening, should be and hopefully becomes a tropical storm in and around the 72-hour mark, and then continues to weaken out. But by the time we get out here towards day 5, it could still have the intensity of a tropical storm as it is approaching Western Europe. Now, we are going to jump into the ensembles. Let me... yeah, it out to sea. Umberto is likely going to go out to sea. There is no question about it. Could be a Bermuda problem. There's no doubt about that. There could very well be a threat there. But the potential binary interaction between waves 93 and 94 are quite concerning. You've got land interactions, you've got an upper level low, the binary interactions, you've got a cutoff low pressure over the southeastern United States. So things are going to be very, very uncertain and quite questionable over the next couple days as we try to figure out exactly what these two storms are going to do. Uh-oh. When I check chat, what did I do? Uh-oh. Oh, boy. Yep. It's back. Oh, Facebook chat's fixing to get live. Enjoy, everybody. I'm going to go back to doing the weather, but yeah, enjoy. So what we have here is the European physics-based legacy ensemble runs. We've got Gabby running out this way. This is the signal for Invest 94L. Now, I would like everybody to please take a notice at the wide swath of development locations there. All right, you've got a very wide area of where this development could occur. You're looking at anywhere from approximately 56 degrees west all the way to about 61 degrees west or 60 degrees west. That is going to have a large factor in as to what plays, because as you could see here, you have one camp that wants to go this way and another camp that takes it out a little further this way. That is going to be huge going forward as far as 94L is concerned. As you could see, we are looking at the potential for development majorly into the Bahamas region. Now, at that point, you've got some camp that want to take it out this way. You have more camps that want to take it out this way, and even more that actually want to drive it that way. So an extreme amount of uncertainty with 94L. Extreme uncertainty. Now, let's compare all of this. I'm not even going to bother to show the 10-day models here tonight because even out 7 days, you could go out 5 days. No, not with these two particular waves right now. Let's take a look at the GEFS and how this compares out. The GEFS is remarkably different. And here's why. It develops 94L here, or 93L here. What happens is it steals a lot of the energy coming from 93. There is still the potential for something to try to get organized there, but it is kind of a battle between the two. And if you note with the GEFS, we have nothing, and I mean nothing, near the United States. They both try to develop kind of early, as you could see with 94L developing just north of Hispaniola around the Turks and Caicos, kind of getting caught up in a binary interaction with 93L, and they're doing a little bit of a do-si-do, rotating around a common center located somewhere between the two storms, which doesn't allow 94L to get too far to the west. And then it kind of gets strung out a little bit. So again, two completely different models, two completely different solutions. So let's compare all of that with the recent AI models. If we compare it, that's 10 days and it's an absolute mess. We've got to come down to 7 to really get an idea. As you can see, again, with the Euro AI, we have a large area of development location for 93L. If it develops a little bit more to the east, it would have more of an opportunity to follow along Gabby here. If it develops a little bit further to the west, then there is another camp that drives it up like this. So we've got a decent amount of agreement for this particular system here. As far as this one is concerned, look, we're talking about development potentials from around between 70 and 80 degrees west. That is a massive area of development potentials. You have some that develop it early and have it leave out this way. You have some develop it a little bit further to the west, leave out this way, with the potential to come back towards the United States. And then you also have some that try to do this number. So we're looking at least the Euro AI is in somewhat agreement with the Euro legacy itself. And again, we have land interactions with Puerto Rico, Hispaniola, potentially Cuba, so plus an upper level low that I'll show you here in a moment that could increase a little bit of extra shear, keeping 94L weak and allowing some interaction and the energy to develop and get organized and consolidate with 93L, and then it steals 94L's momentum, and this is an absolute mess, folks. So and I'm being so serious when I say this, I really don't care who you follow, but if they try to show you, hey, look at this deterministic run of the Euro or the GFS or anything going forward without the caveat saying that there is a huge amount of uncertainty with these, I would recommend that you follow maybe a little bit more professional or other sources. So what I've got here is I've got the Google DeepMind, and this is the 6Z. For some reason, we have not gotten the 12Z yet, and I don't know why. Usually it's up well over an hour ago by now. So we're going to have to deal with what we've got here tonight with the 6Z run. And as I continue to run this forward, you will see here we're going to stop this right at the 120-hour mark. Now, we had the other ones out 7 days, but we have the abilities to draw the box and pull what we have here. As you could see, a great amount of uncertainty, with even the potential of trying to drop this into the northern portions of the Caribbean just south of Cuba and trying to make some kind of run that way. We do not see that signal in the other models. So please keep that in mind. Okay? And what we do see though is a lot of the guidance wants to pull it up and run it out to the northeast, away from land. But it is definitely not a non-zero chance here that there could be the potential for impacts to the East Coast. There's a ton of uncertainty with this. An absolute ton of uncertainty. If we look and we draw our box here on, let's try that one more time, on 93L. As you can see with 93L, we've got some of it for the majority of the guidance from 93L. We're getting this to follow something similar to an Aaron track, maybe, where it splits the goalposts, maybe a little bit more closer to Bermuda than it is the East Coast of the United States at this point in time. But it's, the stronger it is, the tighter it turns, the weaker it is, the more it would tend to drift out a little bit further. So, folks, I cannot stress this enough. There is an unbelievable amount of uncertainty with this. Let's take a look at our deterministic runs for the Euro on the left and the GFS on the right. This is our 850 millibar cyclonic vorticity models. This highlights areas of spin approximately 1 mile above the ocean surface. This shows both of these waves as they propagate forward. We're going to come to the 48-hour mark, and we are going to highlight our differences at this time. As you can see here, we have 94L, 93L. We've got 94L that does not have the same signature as what we have there on the Euro. And then we have 93L out here. Both are in pretty decent agreement with the location of Gabrielle. All right, let's roll this forward another 24 hours. Now, at this point, the Euro has consolidation of what would be Umberto. The GFS does not have very much and is stringing out 94L. All right, it's grabbing it. It's basically grabbing it from two ends and pulling it apart and stretching it. The flow of that moisture would then incorporate into what is now Invest 93L. And as you could see, their proximity is a lot closer than the proximity of what we have here between the two storms on the Euro. All right, now let's run this forward again. We're going to run this forward. This time, we're going to take it to 120 hours. At 120 hours, you can very clearly see what has happened with the GFS. We have 93L becoming the dominant feature and 94L being stretched out and incorporated into the vorticity of 93L. This would be a very optimal scenario for folks here on the East Coast. The Euro, on the other hand, shows the development of Umberto right here, and then what would be Imelda right there. This is out 5 days. All right. So we can already see that the models are not even remotely close in agreeing with one another. So you can't say that the right model is going to be correct, and you can't say that the left model is going to be wrong. Yeah, and vice versa. You can't. There's no way of telling right now at this point. Now, as we get it to day 6 and then get it towards day 7, as we can see, we have one consolidated system here on the GFS, very large, broad area of circulation. On the Euro, we have basically at this point, potentially a double hurricane, which, okay, we'll see it if it happens. And then they trail one another, but as you can see, it doesn't make it all the way, and then potentially gets left behind and has to rotate and wait for the next one. Now, if I were to come back one model run on this, it's going to be a completely different scenario. So do not trust one run of one model. Although the reason that we show these is because now when we go to our humidity models and we go to our wind shear models, we know exactly where the quote unquote seeds are, where what each of the models are going to be showing. And that is critical because as we can see here with the Euro on the left, the GFS on the right, this represents our humidity levels. Now, we've got on the top two graphics, we have the 500 millibar, and on the bottom two graphics, we have the 700 millibar. So this is trying to get a good gauge of the atmosphere and the humidity levels between approximately 2 and 3.5 miles above the ocean surface. We're looking at that column of air between 10 and 18,000 feet. So our browns represent our dry air and our greens and blues represent our moisture. Now, as we run this forward, you will definitely see that the GFS has this feature to where they get way too close. Look at the Euro. Look at the difference. And this is what makes all of the uncertainty just unbelievable. You've got a very well-defined separation of the moisture columns on the Euro. We're out 72 hours at this point, and both the 500 and 700 millibars are completely separated by a tongue of dry air that is present. If we look at the GFS, that is a totally different scenario. A completely different scenario. It's like these two waves attempt to become one focused center of energy. Now, as we run this forward, we're going to take it out to day 5 because we know at day 5, validation and organization on the Euro. We know that that was there. The GFS becomes this massive blob of tropical moisture as it's trying to consolidate, but it's enormous, which at that point, if you try to put both of them together, that may make development a little more difficult just due to its overall size and trying to phase 2 points of energy into one. Now, we're going to run this out to day 7, and as you can see here, on the Euro, even if we get that development, look at this massive shot of dry air with 94L here, 93L here. We know that the seeds are going to run this way. We did see that the Euro, at the last couple frames there, and people might try to scare people with that, has it kind of trying to bend back. Look at all the dry air behind it. All right, look at all the dry air behind it. Even if this tries to track out and then attempt something like this is coming in behind it. So there is going to be a considerable amount of dry air in and around the region if it follows the Euro's thinking. The GFS, on the other hand, already had that one massive system, and the dry air has already filtered out. Now, this is going to be critical because if this happens to materialize, look at this plunge of dry air pushing down and potentially getting in, clearing parts of Cuba. You know, okay, keep playing, Mother Nature, and you're gonna end up dropping a bunch of dry air in the spot to where we would normally see tropical cyclone development later on. And we do have a new global tropics hazards outlook today that we'll get to here momentarily. Now we're looking at our wind shear models. We've got, again, the Euro on the left, the GFS on the right. This represents wind with and changing at height. So we're looking at the entire atmospheric column between the 200 and 850 millibar levels. That is approximately 5,000 to 40,000 feet above the ocean surface. So as I continue to run this forward, we will note that there is an upper level low there in place, and how this upper level low interacts and goes forward, you could clearly see it on satellite right now. You could see the rotation and the spin with that upper level low. It did try to have a little bit of convective activity earlier this afternoon, as noted by one of our team members, but has since and subsequently collapsed. So this is not going to turn around and try to get a little bit deeper and maybe influence a little bit more. The behind the scenes conversations on this with the team have been crazy over the last few days because we've been tracking this particular wave of 94L and 93L since before it left Africa. And unfortunately, we are now presented with the possibility of a potential threat. And I personally don't care for that. I was enjoying our, lack of anxiety, the lack of people having to make preparations. Now we got hurricane watches for the Azores and a potential threat here for the Greater Antilles, the Bahamas. I mean, even though regardless of development, there's going to be a considerable amount of rainfall. So we're out 72 hours here on both of the models. And the one thing that they are in agreement with is that we've got a little bit of a low here. It is not necessarily a closed low. You got another low here. And it is creating a little bit of wind shear like this. All right, so we know we're out 72 hours. The GFS has wave 1 basically right here, wave 2 right there. We've got on the Euro, you've got the 193L here and 94L here. So again, it's the difference in how close do these get to one another. I mean, that's one factor of the overall forecast. As we continue to run this forward, we're going to get this out to the 120-hour mark, and we will note that we have a digging trough of low pressure right here with our area of on the GFS that we know becomes 93L absorbing 94L, though that trough is there. The Euro has the same feature with the trough coming in. We also have the development of something here and the development of something there. With this trough potentially helping to ventilate the storm just a little bit, or if it's in the wrong spot, maybe a little bit of an increased southwesterly shear. A lot of uncertainties, folks. It's really it's a wild time right now. Once we push this out to 7 days, as you can see, we have a large low pressure here causing a very, very protective boundary. This is headed out to sea. You have a weaker feature here, and you've got a binary interaction. But the one thing that I would like to pull your attention to is the front one is stronger. That may also, because they would want to counterclockwise rotate around a center point, that may induce a little bit more of a track that would look a little something like this. So I'm going to draw a little circle down here. And you could see something that goes like this and then like that, to where you get this point of the track right here becomes the binary pivot around the center point, to where it just has a little bit of an erratic track if this were to come to fruition. But as we've seen, we know that the shear is going to be there. The ensembles are all over the place. So looking at the deterministic runs, this is going to change tomorrow. I promise. What we're going to be looking at tomorrow is going to be completely different. But I'm here to try to give everybody a breakdown on exactly what the models are showing up to a certain point. I mean, we could sit here and go over all types of models, but it'll get far too technical for folks, and I don't want to waste your time. So, as we can see here, we do have Saharan dust associated with our systems. So it's going to be again, there's another factor of what we're dealing with. So does that Saharan dust delay the potential development of 93L, the easternmost wave? We don't know. Too early to say. Now, one thing that I have pulled out are our NOAA blend of models on the left and the WPC official forecast on the right. We do have a little bit of rain over the next 7 days for eastern and central portions of North Carolina. Maybe getting into parts of western North Carolina, although the WPC does not call for that. It calls for it dumping more of the rain into central parts of Tennessee and then not really making it too much over the mountain range. So we're going to have to wait and see to just to see if the WPC doesn't update and the blend of models update as we start to go forward with a little bit of the as we get closer to the event and some of that uncertainty kind of works its way out. Yes, Amanda. Yeah, you're getting definitely. It's more rain for southern Florida. It's that stalled out frontal boundary, and with a potentially a cutoff upper level low over the southeast, it could be a problem. Let's see here. Looking for any questions. All right, I don't see any there. Let me check over here. Okay, I don't have any. All right. A quick look at our MJO. As you can see with the GEFS and its ensembles, looking at trying to get it over towards phase 3, phase 4. If we run it into the high res, kind of gets it out, maybe falls it back into the circle with the regular GEF or the GFS, while the GEFS continues its clockwise or its counterclockwise rotation around our graphic here. So that would be hopeful. You go off into phase 4, phase 5 for a while. You're not going to hurt my feelings. So now what we've got here is Earthnol. Now this is going to be a very important little feature here tonight. So let's get our bearings. First, we're at 500 millibars. This is approximately 3.5 miles above the ocean surface. Here, circled, number 1, Gabrielle, 93L, 94L. As you can see, they are in quite close proximity. Our little upper level low, right there. And then we also have a small little area of high pressure with our dominant subtropical ridge right here. You can see the flow kind of going this way. What we're looking for, and if I come up to approximately 6 miles above the ocean surface, you can very clearly see the upper level low, and there's even another one right there. So it's kind of a double banger system there. This particular feature is trying to help create a little bit of extra shear over Invest 94L. So let's come back down to the 500 millibar. Now we're going to run this forward, and this is the GFS solution. And the reason that I want to run this forward tonight, we're out 24 hours. Now we're out 48 hours, and then we're out 72 hours. As you can see, at the 500 millibar level, we have coherence. You know, like you've got two well-defined little systems right there. You've got a perk of energy here, but at the 1,000 millibar level, getting very close to the ocean surface, maybe just 1,000 feet above the ocean surface. We've got this area here, but the land interaction with Hispaniola does not allow this to consolidate. And if I take this forward, you will see that there is an area of low pressure associated with it. But as we seen on the seeds, we didn't get anything. So you want to talk about some uncertain forecasts? We've got it. We've got it all day, every day. So this is going to be very difficult to forecast, because you've got this high here that's going to want to kind of run all of these storms around it. But then look at this upper level low right here. If this dives down this way and this comes up on that backside, but only if this gets cut off. This low pressure has to get cut off and create a full circle to where it can draw it this way, because if it's still attached to the frontal boundary and the trough, it'll go that way. A lot of uncertainty, folks. Welcome to September in the Atlantic hurricane season. Thankfully, our activity should continue to go down, and I have some decent news to report. As we saw with last week's graphic with the Global Tropics Hazards Outlook, this week, as week 3 has transitioned into week 2, we lost CAG. We've still got an area that could do this number for the first week of October. But then when we get into week 3, CAG may return. Fun times, folks. Fun times. I cannot wait for Halloween. I really, really am so looking forward to Halloween. Because at that point in time, we can try to turn the volume down on the Basin. All right, Miss Betty, have a wonderful evening. No, unfortunately, Sammy, I'm not too sure this season's going to be a bust. We still got a little bit of ways to go. All right, jumping out into the Eastern Pacific, we have Narda. This has finally become a hurricane. It is currently located at 15.4 north, 108.4 west, It is maximum sustained winds of 85 miles an hour, moving just a little bit south of due west at, even though it is west, but it's at 260 degrees, at 13 miles an hour. And its minimum central pressure is 981 millibars. There are no watches and warnings in effect. There are no hazards affecting land. If we take a look at the forecast cone, it is going to go out here into the middle of absolutely nowhere, meet cooler sea surface temperatures and a much more stable air mass over those cooler sea surface temperatures will end up losing its intensity and then turning to the left. If we take a look at the forecast discussion, as you can see here, we've got our intensity potentially getting it up to approximately 110 miles an hour, still flirting with that major hurricane status. But again, like I've told everybody for many, many days now with the Eastern Pacific, the moment that it gets above 20 north, look what happens. This is 20.4 degrees north at the 120 hour, and it went from 105 to 75 in 24 hours. So go ahead, flirt with that 20-degree north line and watch what happens. And I guess this part of the forecast would be brought to you by the word poof. If we take a look at the ensembles, we do have some that could potentially get it strong enough to where it could be pulled by a trough that would be coming down. Very, very extraordinarily low chance. It is going to be moving into a quite a stable air environment, and as you can see, over 7 days, you don't have much. If we compare that to the Euro AI model, as soon as it gets above 20 north, poof, ends up being a naked swirl, puts its left turn signal on, and off it goes. And if we compare that to the GEFS, again, if it gets really strong and does not make it out past 120 degrees, maybe the water temperatures are a little bit warmer the closer we get to Mexico. But if it gets out here past 120 degrees west and you try to pull north, goodbye. It was nice knowing you. We'll see your name again in 6 years. Jumping out to the Western Pacific. You thought the Philippines were done with Regasa? Absolutely not. We have Tropical Depression 26W. Now, I am not even going to try to attempt to pronounce that just yet. I am going to wait for a few folks that I listen to and follow for the Western Pacific. And I'm going to wait for them to pronounce it, and then hopefully I will then come back and try to be able to pronounce this tomorrow. That's my best guess, because absolutely not. I'm not even going to try. I mean, that thing there is no. From Florida and try to, nope, not at all. So, let's talk about Regasa. Regasa is still a very powerful Category 4 typhoon. It is strong enough, as you can see here, this purple line right here, that is our hurricane force wind field. And I am going to draw this out because it is ridiculous. And the reason is Hong Kong is right there. And when I show you the microwave imagery, this had a double eye wall feature. That secondary outer eye wall slapped right in to Hong Kong. Face first. Full force. We're currently located with Regasa at 21.1 north, 114.8 east with 115 knots or 130 mile an hour sustained 1 minute winds. It is currently moving west-northwest, at 12 knots. We've got a very good agreement on its intensity. We have wind shear at 5 to 15 knots, and our sea surface temperatures are starting to reduce a little bit from 29 to 30 down to 28 to 29. It has strong radial outflow, but it is also beginning land interactions. So the friction and the drag coefficient that land is going to add to the northern side of this storm should help to continue to slowly weaken this as we go forward. I do know that Josh Morgaman is out there in parts of China awaiting on the arrival of this. He's down here somewhere. But the microwave imagery here, as you could see, our velocity signature is slowly coming back. But right as it was approaching Hong Kong, look at that. That outer eye wall smacked the island. And as you could see here, with the most recent satellite imagery, they are still getting pounded. Still, they're catching nothing but that outer eye wall. The inner eye wall, because of some of the degradation to that outer eye wall, the inner eye wall is still able to hold on. So if this inner eye wall could somehow, some way collapse, that would be good. But unfortunately, we still have a very formidable Category 4 system on the Saffir-Simpson scale. As we could see through its intensity forecast, 110, 85, 65, and then we'll finally get rid of this thing in about 72 hours. But it's going to cause a hell of a lot of damage before it gets done. The wind analysis on this thing, this is ridiculous. You do have that 65 knot wind band right into parts of Hong Kong. So I'll be very interested to see some of the video that is coming out from this. Although I will say, I have not heard of any fatalities yet from this particular storm. And I hope it remains that way. I hope I don't hear any. Neoguri out here, as you can see, still a typhoon. It is trying to figure out what it wants to do. It's coming up like this, maybe do a little bit of a loop, or, you know, come up and go like this. It's confused. That's all there is to it. No threat to land. It's absolutely confused, though. But the one that I am not even going to attempt to try to pronounce, this one's a problem. Because, as you can see here, we have the potential typhoon, 65, 70 knots. This is typhoon strength, minimal Category 1 right here. As it is approaching the central portions of the Philippines, crosses over the capital of the Philippines, being Manila, right there. As it then reemerges into the South China Sea, here it is at 45 knots, re-intensifying to 60 knots, and then cranking it up again if it runs the gap here, and we're back to a typhoon heading potentially for the capital of Vietnam. Fun times. Have I mentioned how much that I despise September in the Northern Hemisphere? Okay, yes, Dawn. Definitely keep an eye on this. You'll know. I'll blow up chat if I start to see the signal that we're getting an increased threat to the U.S. No doubt about it, and I will definitely reach out to our Carolina followers as well. Also, up there into the coastal Georgia and northeast Florida region, please, please, please keep a very close watch on this. So that's all that I've got here for tonight, folks. I will be back tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central, here on YouTube and Facebook. But if we start to see the threat from 94L beginning to increase for the U.S., or beginning to increase, to where, like, we've got a lot of uncertainty, but we know we're going to have a pretty formidable system sitting out there, our live stream coverage will increase in frequency. I don't know exactly what time, but we'll definitely be doing a morning live and an evening live at the minimum. So it could go early morning, it could go late morning, it could go evening, and it could go late night. We could go up to 4 a day. I don't know just yet. But please understand and, be patient with us. If this thing does trigger, we are going to trigger on top of it as well. So we will be here with pretty much wall to wall coverage if the threat requires wall to wall coverage. All right, everybody. Have a wonderful evening. I will be back again tomorrow night. So we'll talk to you then. Have a great night, everybody.